My name is Peter Jarman. I'm 84 years old, about to be 85 in August, and I live in La Jolla, California, at a retirement home. I've never been suicidal, never had any problems that I'm aware of with depression. In 1962, I believe, I had what is commonly called a nervous breakdown. So it was a combination, as it turns out, of drinking too much. I began to feel kind of dizzy when I'd be walking along the streets. That's how it's manifested itself. I didn't know what was happening, but I was drinking, taking sodium amytal to sleep, and taking what was a Thorazine to calm my nerves. Well, the combination I didn't last very long taking those medications. One morning I woke up, went to shave. I simply couldn't shave. I couldn't operate. So I ended up at a very good psychiatric hospital in Stockbridge, Massachusetts, called Austin Riggs, and I was there for 2 months. And I took a bottle of scotch to my room. You were allowed to do that there. It was an open hospital. And I realized how much at that time, particularly in retrospect, I'd been using alcohol as a medication, actually, to calm my anxiety. My diagnosis was acute anxiety. And without going into a whole lot of detail, I spent 2 years with a well-known psychiatrist in New York, kind of working things through. And that was probably the worst time, other than when Tom died, of my life. So I've had my share. I made some very good friends, by the way, in the psychiatric hospital. Met William Inge, the playwright, who was in residence there at the time. Judy Garland had been there. It was known for having a roster of well-known people as patients. So it was good for me because it took me out of the maelstrom of my New York life. And I went back shaky, but more centered than I'd been before. I continued drinking until 71, which is in February of 71. I went to my first AA meeting. And I've been sober ever since and changed my life. I never would have started my own agency if I hadn't gone into AA, I'm sure. Wouldn't have had the courage to do it. In 1986, I got together with 3 other New Yorkers, and we founded a gay AA meeting here in San Diego. Of the 4, I'm the only one left in San Diego. One has passed away. Another lives in Tucson. Another lives in Washington, D.C. now. So I attend the meeting every week. To me, it's more a chance to see friends than it is any concern about the possibility of my drinking. At this point, I expect to die sober. But it's a good meeting. We get between 50 and 60 men every week. And a lot of the men are in their 30s and 40s. Unlike my experience, when I came in back when I was 39 in New York, most everybody, alcohol was the drug. But of course, drugs like meth combined with alcohol get people down, bring people down a lot younger. So a lot of the guys in the Sunday night meeting are in their 30s and 40s. And so that's a good thing if they stay sober. The only problem with being young is you think you're going to live forever, no matter what, you know. I was even happy, even though, as you know, Alcoholics Anonymous is an anonymous program, that somebody like Elizabeth Taylor came out as an alcoholic and that she'd been to Betty Ford when she did, because I think it gave people who are struggling with their alcoholism, you know, if somebody like Elizabeth Taylor can admit she's an alcoholic, my God, it isn't all people crawling around in the gutter, which is what my idea of an alcoholic was when I was young. I served for 10 years on the board of Stepping Stone, which is an alcohol and drug rehab organization here in San Diego for gay men and women. There have been straight people who have gone through, but it's primarily for gay men and women. And I served on the board from 85 to 95. And, it's a charity that I have left money to in my trust. Well, what I'd like to have anybody who sees this know, if they're young, is you don't have to take drugs and drink in order to be comfortable with yourself, which is what I did for years. And you don't have to be afraid the way I was when I was a younger person. My life was really dictated by the fear of exposure. And, that's a terrible way to live. I realize now, although all of us lived it, it wasn't just me. I'll tell you, you have your whole life ahead of you. And if you don't get caught up in drugs and drinking, you have a great future because you can be who you are.